Hello, everyone. Welcome to Life Spring. I hope you're having a wonderful day or you had a wonderful day. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do well to do so, okay? And also, if you haven't liked our videos or share them, what are you waiting for? Please do share them and like them and also comment. Your comments are very important. You can ask questions, you can give your input on every of our topics. Very, very important. You can even say what you would like, me to discuss, something that would bless each and every one of us. So it's very important that you comment, that you like, that you share, and that you subscribe. With that being said, let's dive into today's topic. So today, our topic is womanhood, gatekeepers. Womanhood, gatekeepers. And our text will be taken from Esther chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, and Judges chapter 4. It's quite a long reading. It's something you'd have to go back later and, run through the chapters and then probably come back to the video so that you can understand better. But I will be pointing, some of the verses from each of the chapters to explain my points. Our case study for today is Esther and Deborah, Queen Esther and Deborah. Now listen very closely. If you were born a woman into this world, then a very big congratulations to you because you are a natural born gatekeeper. Now, what is the job description of a gatekeeper? A gatekeeper is in charge of the gate. His post and place of work and authority is at the gate. He determines who goes in and out through that gate. In fact, as powerful as the Oga of a house can be, if the gatekeeper refuses to open that gate for him to go out and come in, he is totally helpless. So even the boss is at the mercy of the gatekeeper. Women are natural born gates and portals. No human can come into this realm without a woman. That was one of the things that necessitated the coming of Eve, the creation of Eve, because procreation in this realm would not have been possible if a woman was not made. Now, one thing about a gatekeeper we must know is that he always knows who or what is passing through the gate. Nothing passes without his consent. In fact, the day that people or things start passing through the gate without him knowing, he has automatically lost his power and forsaken his responsibility as the gatekeeper. And when there is no one at the gate to regulate who goes in and out, criminals, imposters, and dangerous people start gaining access through the gate. So the role of a gatekeeper cannot even be overemphasized. It's very important. It's a very delicate post, a very important responsibility, and must be taken seriously. Now let's look at Esther as a gatekeeper. Looking at the story of Esther, the story of Esther is a very popular story. A lot of people love to read the story of Esther because it talks about a slave girl and an orphan child that was, elevated by God from just being an orphan child to being the queen of a very big, nation or whatever. So the story of Esther, many people just think that Esther was a slave orphan child who was enthroned by God. But Esther wasn't just a queen. She wasn't just enthroned by God and put in the position of a queen for her personal enjoyment. Esther was the gatekeeper and the spiritual judge of Israel during her time. Although the Bible doesn't identify it as that, but that was her identity in the spirit. She represented the mediator of Israel, which was one of the characteristics of Christ portrayed in that story. But most importantly, She was the spiritual gatekeeper of Israel, and her gate position in the realm of the spirit was at the palace on the throne as a queen, as the queen. Because the palace was a place where matters about the entire nations and provinces were discussed and decisions were made. She was there to determine what happens or does not happen to her people. If it was a good thing, it was her duty to make sure that it gets to the people. But if it was a negative thing, she was to stop it immediately, making sure it doesn't get to her people. That was her job as the gatekeeper of Israel. But unfortunately, like every other normal human being or every other normal lady, who God picked from poverty and, like they say it, from grass to grace, a lady that was picked from grass to grace. This lady at first thought she was just privileged to marry a king in order for her to enjoy and then take her immediate family out of poverty. She was very ignorant of her position and responsibility in the spirit. That was why when matters about her people were being discussed on and a decree was made, she was clueless. She had no idea what was happening. She was busy enjoying life as the first lady of Susa. Even when she heard her uncle was mourning, she was still carried away. She thought maybe it was because he wanted her to meet his material needs. So she sent her servant to give him some beautiful new clothes. But Mordecai rejected it. Like, how can you be giving me clothes when our nation is about to be wiped out totally from the face of the earth? How blind and deaf are you, O gatekeeper, that you don't know the danger that has passed through the gate? How blind and deaf are you, O queen? But the Bible said she finally made inquiries from her uncle to know why he was mourning. But before I go into that, let me just give you a backstory of what led to the whole Mordecai mourning and all that. It was Haman. Haman was more like the personal advisor, the closest to the king at that time, and he had such an authority and favor with the king that whatever he told the king would do. And so that period, the king favored Haman and exalted him. And whenever Haman goes out, to parade himself, everyone, no matter who you are, you have to bow down to him, as a sign of, respect, showing respect to his position. But the Bible said that every time Haman went out, to parade himself and people would bow to him, Mordecai would never do that. Mordecai refused to bow, and it caused a problem. People around kept asking Mordecai, why are you not bowing for Haman? Because it was already made a law that the moment Haman comes out, everybody must bow. In fact, it was a decree that was signed with the ring of the king, and any decree that is being signed by the ring with the ring of the king at that time, it must be obeyed. It must be obeyed. It is that serious that you can face a death penalty if you disobey it. And so Mordecai kept disobeying that decree to bow down for Haman. And then these people that kept asking Mordecai why he wasn't bowing down, one certain day they went to tell Haman that, there's a certain man that is not bowing down whenever you are passing, and the man is a Jew. And the moment Haman heard of it, Haman became so furious, and he now got so furious not just with Mordecai, but the people of Mordecai, where Mordecai was from. So Haman now decided that he will not just show Mordecai shege, but he will show his entire people, the nation of Israel. He will make sure that they all go in for Mordecai's stubbornness to obey the law. You can imagine. So that was what happened. And then Haman went to tell the king. He now put it in such a way that it was as if it was the king, that the people of Israel were disobeying, he told the king, if you read the scripture, he told the king that, my king, my lord, there is a certain race of people that are not obeying your rules and your regulations and your decrees. And like I said, those days, if you don't obey any decree that was signed with the ring of the king, you can face death penalty. It was that bad. And then Haman now suggested to the king that what should be done to these people was that they should be wiped out completely, that a decree should be given to every other provinces to kill the people of the Jews. And the king accepted, and the decree went out. And that was what happened, that the people of Israelites, their life was at stake. The Bible said when Mordecai heard of it, he rented his clothes. He realized what he had done. He saw that almost the situation water don't pass Gary, and he started to mourn. The people of Israel started to cry to God for help. They started fasting. They started mourning, wearing sackcloth, pouring ashes on themselves. And while all that was happening, Queen Esther was not aware. The gatekeeper, the spiritual gatekeeper of Israel, was not aware. When this decree was being passed, she was not aware. She had no idea. When she now finally heard that her uncle was mourning, instead of her to find out from him, uncle, what happened? Why are you mourning? She started sending clothes to him. How can you be sending me clothes when our nation is about to be wiped out? Do you think clothes is my problem now, oh queen, oh gatekeeper? And then when she finally found out from Mordecai what really made him to be mourning, there was something she said that really surprised me. Do you know that even as she became aware of what was happening, instead of her to take her place as the gatekeeper of Israel and begin to seek solution and probably begin to seek the face of God on what to do, she started giving excuses, because she felt as long as she was queen, she and her family probably would have been exempted. So it was none of her business. Verse 10 to 11 of Esther chapter 4 says, then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, that's her servant. Verse 11 says, all the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that they be put to death unless the king extends the gold scepter to them and spares their life. But 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king. This was her excuse. That everybody knows that it's a law that, before you go to see the king has to demand of you. If you go to see the king without the king demanding of you, and he doesn't, pull out his scepter for you to touch, you are a dead man. It's death penalty. It's as if those days everything was just death penalty. And that was her excuse. So she was like, 30 days have passed. I've not even seen my husband, the king. What makes you think that even if I try to go and talk to him now, he will even answer me? You can imagine the excuse. But see what the Spirit of God through Mordecai replied her in verse 13 and 14. He said, he sent back this answer. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. God literally had to remind her that, young lady, I didn't make you a queen for you to get carried away. I made you a queen because you are a gatekeeper. And right now, you need to reverse what went through the gate without your knowing. It's funny how even when she, started praying, the Bible said she later prayed and fasted for 3 days. It's funny how when she prayed and fasted and then went to see the king, what she expected that will happen didn't happen. She was obviously expecting that the king was not going to, pull out the scepter to allow her to speak to him. She was scared. But at the end of the day, it was an entirely different thing that happened. It's the same way that the devil makes us to get scared unnecessarily. The devil made her to believe a lie so that she wouldn't do anything. The same way the devil is making you believe a lie to keep you from solving the problem that you were made a gatekeeper in your family to solve. He's telling you that there is no need to take the things of God so serious. There is no need to be a prayerful woman for you to pray at night. There is no need for you to keep your virginity. There is no need for you to keep that baby that you got pregnant with out of wedlock. Madam Gatekeeper, how long will you continue being ignorant, prayerless, and nonchalant? Your entire generation is in trouble if you don't take your position in the spirit. Look at the life of Deborah compared to Esther. Deborah understood her assignment as a gatekeeper. She knew her mandate. Even though she was a married woman, she maintained her post at the gate. She maintained her position at the gate, both physically and spiritually. She was well positioned. Nothing happened in Israel, whether physical or spiritual, without her knowing. Even when it was time for them to go to war, to battle, she went with them. And because she carried out her duty well as a gatekeeper, they conquered their battles. And there was peace in her time for good 40 years because one woman understood her responsibility as a gatekeeper. Listen, women, young girls, young lady, you were not just created to make babies or satisfy your husband's sexual pleasure. You were not also created just to be a helpmeet to your husband. You were made to be a gatekeeper spiritually and physically. As a physical gatekeeper, don't let anyone sleep with you anyhow they like. Your body is very precious to God, and any mistake or carelessness will bring a child into this world unprepared. And it's wickedness to bring a child into a world when the right foundation of a responsible family has not been laid. Also take responsibility of who to marry. Make sure you marry right, and not just because you want a fairy tale experience or because you are clouded by emotions. Some unions were never bound to happen if only the ladies discerned that the guy they were about to marry were the wrongest choice ever. Know the spiritual background of who you are marrying. Don't just marry and get entangled. You get both yourself and your born children entangled into a demonic covenant you know nothing about. This is a spiritual aspect also. It's also talking about you being a spiritual gatekeeper. But also spiritually, as a gatekeeper, you must be prayerful. A gatekeeper is an intercessor, a mediator. If you don't pray, a lot will go wrong in your family. A lot will go wrong in your life. The enemy will gain easy access into your home if you are prayerless. It is your praying lifestyle that positions you at the gate of your home in the spirit. Once the enemy sees that you are keeping watch, he can't come in. And while you are being prayerful, be a woman of godly character. After Esther fasted for 3 days and sought the face of the Lord and prayed, the next thing she went to do was to soft talk her husband, the king, who had the power to change what had been decreed. Every time in chapter 5 of Esther, she wanted to appeal to the king. She did it with respect and in humility. And she would always say, as it pleases the king, as it pleases the king. As a woman, your prayer is powerless and baseless if they are not backed up with godly character. God does not answer the prayer of a nagging and disrespectful woman or a disrespectful wife. So while you are praying, build godly character so that the enemy won't use any of them to sneak into your home and destiny and destroy it. We have a lot of praying women these days. Yes, there are a lot of women that are praying, but they are without godly character. And they wonder why things haven't changed in their life, or why the thing they are even praying for has not materialized. Be a woman of prayer and good behavior. Allow the prayer to first prune you and change you before it changes the situation you are praying for. Remember what happened to Jesus at the Mount of Transfiguration. The Bible said when Jesus prayed, his countenance changed. Prayer does not just change a situation, it changes you that is praying. So if you are praying for a particular challenge and you are not being transformed even as you pray, that bad character is not being transformed, it's not changed, then there's a problem. There's a problem with you. And the enemy will keep using that your bad character as a loophole to sneak into your family, to sneak into your destiny and destroy it. So as far as you are a woman, you are a gatekeeper. And one thing you must do as a gatekeeper is to keep watch. You must keep watch. Nothing should pass through that gate without your knowing. If you are prayerless, now is not the time to be prayerless. You need to go and clean your prayer altar and begin to pray again. Your life, your family is at stake if you are not praying. And then secondly, godly character. Godly character. Do you think that Deborah's husband would have allowed her to be the judge and, carry out her duty as a judge if she was not a godly woman, a godly wife? He wouldn't have. He wouldn't have. But it was obvious that he was giving her free hand and probably even supporting her ministry. Why? Because she was a godly wife. Prayer without godly character is rubbish. The two works hand in hand. Very important. So, as a gatekeeper, pray or develop godly character. They cannot be overemphasized. My message recommendation for this topic is Mother's Day Service, The Gatekeepers by Lady Ibego Ogwoche. I don't know if I pronounced it well, but the message is actually a 3 hours 24 minutes message, but it's actually a church service. That's why it's that long. But then the main preaching, that was done by the woman of God started from 1 hour 54 minutes. So you can decide to either listen to it from the beginning, or you just fast forward it to 1 hour 54 minutes and start listening to the main preaching from there down to the end. Whichever, we just make sure that you listen to the message because it's a very powerful message. She really spoke so much about gatekeeping as women, and I know that you will be blessed when you listen to it, and you will gain more understanding when you listen to it. I hope you had a wonderful time in today's episode, and I hope you learned something very important. Please do well to subscribe to our channel, like I said earlier, if you haven't. And also do well to like and share our videos and make some comments, very good comments. And I will see you next time when I come back. Take care of yourself. Bye.